Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part two of the governmental and budgetary aspects of fire and EMS service for NIPSTA, the company officer course here in February 2026. I did all the introduction piece before. I'll have that slide come up again, just for the record, in case someone is coming in to us from the outside. This is for the class. It's being presented via video due to a conflict I've got. Appreciate NIPSTA helping us with this, and also Sean at IPPFA. And this is part two. And again, the questions anytime at the bottom, dan.ryan, ippfa.org. Let's move over to budgeting. From the textbook, the Fire Officer Handbook text that you've got, a budget's an itemized summary of estimated or intended expenditures for a given period, along with proposals for financing them. By financing, in that case, we mean revenues, not like financing debt. It's a good definition. I'm going to expand it a little bit. Budget's a couple of different things. It's a policy tool. You see that you want to have the municipality add a firehouse. You want to see that they're going to have a program, a trial program on affordable housing. All of that stuff manifests itself, excuse me, in the local government budget. Yeah. It's a planning tool. Number two, especially for capital equipment, a well-run government will have a look forward, 3 years, 5 years, maybe even longer, of capital expenses that are to come. That tells a story as to where the government is going service-wise and what's going to need financial resource-wise. It's an accounting and control tool. All right. We set the budget, and then we put it into the accounting system, and that keeps track of the expenditures through the year for budgetary compliance and control. You want to send 3 individuals to the arson investigation course down in Champaign next month. Is it in the budget? If it's in the budget, we're good to go. If it's not, then there needs to be issues of transfers of special treatment, or it needs to be put off till the next year. And finally, it's an information tool. A citizen should be able to pick up 1 of 2 documents, the budget or the financial report that's the end of a budget year, and get the information that they need. And the best budget presentations, the best financial report presentations, use what they call a pyramid reporting format. Excuse me. If you can picture a pyramid, narrow at the top, broad at the bottom, start our reading at the top. As we go down the pyramid, we should get as much information we need at each step along the way. So look at a budget or a comprehensive annual financial report. It is often led off with a transmittal letter from the chief executive to the legislative body, describing what is to come in the budget that follows, and also give some good summary and some good program and some good goal information. A citizen could read just the transmittal letter and learn an awful lot. They keep coming down the pyramid. They can read the combined overall revenue and expense picture. Still good information. Keep going. You can get into the detail. Okay, there's a fire department. There's a fire prevention bureau. There's this many people. There's this commitment to training. There's this commitment to public outreach, et cetera. The further you go down the pyramid, the broader the information you get, but you can stop along the way and still feel pretty satisfied. The main components of the budget document we're talking about will be the operating budget, setting forth the revenues for the anticipated revenues for the period, planned expenses, and then plus or minus those, a contribution to fund balance. Governments have a fund balance that they move forward with from year to year. It's a reserve for unnecessary, unanticipated expenses. It produces interest revenue. It's a place that you want to be fairly healthy, because in the government world, you never know what's coming. Part 2 is the capital budget. These are current and future expenses for long-range capital outlays, land, buildings, major equipment, fire departments, the major equipment capital of the world. Stuff so expensive. And other technology, other fleet issues. All of that's laid out in the capital budget. The first year of the capital plan is in the operating budget also, because it's going to be expensed during the year. And then years 2, 3, 4, 5, however you go out, are part of the planning and information functions that the budget fulfills. The budget process that produces all this will vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but I think I've got a pretty good general summary that'll apply most places. At the preparation end, the department, police, fire, public works, public health, building and zoning, works with the chief executive to let them know what their needs are, and the chief executive knowing what we can afford to meet those needs in the upcoming year. This may culminate in an administrative budget hearing. I've got those words in quotes. It's not a public event, but picture the city manager and the finance director and the assistant city manager, at the conference room table, and in comes the chief and his deputies and, a couple of specialists within the department, and you go out over the budget and you answer questions and you defend it. You're having a little budget hearing right there at City Hall. Once that's all done, the budget combined gets presented to the city council, village board, fire district board. That's a public meeting. It's a public document. In a fire protection district without a lot of major events going on, maybe one night. You'll introduce it one night and vote on it the next night, at the next meeting. In a city or a village of some size, you might have a series of budget hearings because there's just so many departments to cover. So you might have public safety night, police and fire, public works one night, civil engineering projects combined with that, city hall departments another night, building and zoning, public health, finance, that group, and then sort of an all other night. I think Skokie has 4 budget presentations, budget hearings. And then the 5th one is when it's all back and combined in front of the village board for a public vote. It's adopted in a formal ordinance, and then we implement it. We download the approved budget into the accounting system. If there's large purchases that were approved, we put them into whatever large purchase protocol we've got, competitive bidding, sole source examinations, et cetera, competitive bidding with or joint purchasing with other departments or other government agencies. Same thing on hiring. If we've got an expansion in fire personnel, police CSOs, a new building inspector, you go about the process of hiring those individuals. And you operate through the year, and then you have along the way and in the end, reporting, auditing and reporting, your internal reports, probably monthly as to where we are budget-wise, revenue and expense, do any modifications need to be made. And then at the end of the year, there's an external certified public accountant who comes in and audits the city or villages or fire district books to make sure that they are fairly stated, and those, in fact, were the revenues, those were the expenditures, and that is a verifiable fund balance that they've got. This is not designed to detect fraud. You can say we passed an audit, there's no fraud. If Deputy Chief Jones and someone in the finance department or public works are colluding to create a phony company and put just enough expenditures through it to not draw attention, there's collusion, they're keeping their profile low, that's going to be tough to detect. But the purpose of an external CPA audit is not that. The way you prevent that is to have a proper internal control, sign-offs and whatnot, questioning of expenditures to make sure that's a go. We have a bellwether event in Illinois in the last couple of decades, the city of Dixon, which had a major internal fraud, millions of dollars. The external CPA people, you could say that's not designed to detect fraud, but it is designed to verify the existence of assets and whatnot, fund balances, revenues coming in. She was skimming revenues off the top. The CPAs can get verification from the county, the state, how much tax revenue did you send to Village of Skokie, City of Dixon, Deerfield, Bannockburn Fire, and verify it. And if it doesn't match up, you've got a situation where you can detect the problem. So they didn't do their job. It's not designed to detect fraud, but it is designed to validate revenues and expenses and fund balances, and that was not done. So the role of the fire officer, company officers and sometimes firefighters are often specialists within the department. I survey the class when I'm in person. Some people are responsible for radio equipment, hose, the mask program, uniforms or turnout gear, special team supplies. And they play an important role in the budget process because they're tasked with the first call or first memo from the chief that says, hey, what are we going to need next year in terms of radios, in terms of hose replacement, in terms of how are the masks doing in their life, expected use of life. So I think this is unique at fire rescue more so than other departments, that individuals, lower management or blue shirts themselves play an important role in the budget process, identifying needs, innovations, costs, etc. You go up the chain, command officers do more. They coordinate the entire budget within spending constraints that are handed down by the city mayor, the manager, the fire district president. So it's a hands-on job at fire, and generally handled very well. Let's talk a little bit about the revenue side of the budget. And I concentrate at when we do the advanced fire officer course, we take a pretty good look at both. But for this purpose right now, we'll concentrate on revenue. One of the reasons I do that is fire and rescue personnel are pretty familiar with how public money is spent. You see where the expenditures go, heavy into personnel-related items, equipment, supplies, station renovation, expansion, that type of thing. But we don't spend a lot of time generally on how government's paid for. So I've got government revenue split in two groups. The top half of the page is specifically fire protection district. All of those revenues can come down to the bottom part where we talk about revenues for municipal departments. But fire protection district is going to be heavily dependent on property tax, secondarily EMS ambulance fees. And if I look at Deerfield Bannockburn, which is what we use in the advanced course, I think they're 86 and a fraction percent property tax, another 8% to EMS fees. So you're approaching 93, 94% of the budget being funded by those two items, primarily the property tax. Everything else is really kind of minor. But the bigger ones or the minor ones are two that are important just to comment on. One is investment income. Fire protection district specifically, your money's going to come in twice a year at the first installment of property taxes and the second installment of property taxes. Expenses are pretty uniform in January to February to July, etc. So if we drew a graph, we'd have expenses even across the months or almost even across the months, but revenue spiking up and down. And at the peak, when that revenue comes in, you don't need it all. You invest it. And previously, in the time I've taught government finance in the public safety space, I've gone up and down on investment income. Some years I didn't have it in there because interest rates were so low, fractions of a percent on a U.S. Treasury bill or a bank CD wasn't even worth mentioning. Now they're back. 3-month T-bills, 3.7%. Money market funds are generally available right now at 4%. That's meaningful. That's a meaningful return. You can't put this money in the stock market or long bonds or whatever. It's going to be needed later on in the 6-month period before the new installment of property taxes come in. You're going to need to expense this money. But investment revenue can be important now. It's an important part of either the district office or the finance office's function. Second to that, the foreign fire insurance tax. Interesting. I like to describe it as an odd tax with an odd means of collection, with an odd means of governance, with an odd purpose for expenses. But it's what we've got, and it's not a bad little revenue to have. What do we mean by foreign fire insurance tax? It's a tax on premiums, fire building premiums, that are written, policies that are written by insurance companies from outside of the state of Illinois. So that's where the foreign comes from. They don't mean France or India. They mean Boston or California. And I've never done any research on this. We probably get less of this tax than in other states that have the tax because we have State Farm and Allstate, big players, resident in Illinois. So there's no foreign fire insurance tax on them because they're not foreign. They're resident to Illinois. But if I surveyed the class, leaving Chicago out, who gets about $7 million. I think we'd find 50,000, 100,000, et cetera, comes in. It's collected by for most part, by the Illinois Municipal League, and then distributed out to the municipalities based on where the premiums, the policies were written. There is a change in state law recently. You can collect it yourself. I don't know of anyone who's done that. Maybe there are some people that have done that. It's governed by a separate board, elected, and it's used for the fire department and its members. That's in the law. Probably, I don't know why you're a member instead of an employee. It might date back to the days when it was more of a volunteer environment. It's used if you put foreign fire insurance tax and meeting minutes in a Google search engine for transparent governments, you'll see where this money is. It's station improvements, equipment, comfort items for the station. A lot of places have gone to using some of this money to help mitigate cancer risks. Separate sets of clothing, shoes, etc. It's all valid uses for those purposes. There was one department out west of Chicago that was in the paper because they built saunas in the firehouses with this money. The theme being you sweat out some of the contaminant that gets on you. As a citizen, I don't even need that as an excuse. I mean, you go out on calls, you want to relax in the sauna afterwards, that's fine with me. If there's a job-related health problem mitigated from it, perfectly fine. I think this money is used overall pretty responsibly. If you are on normally I would survey the class. If you are on a foreign fire board, I would ask what the money is spent for, so you can talk amongst yourself in that regard. During the retirement and at the end of this, I will do a not a cheesy commercial for our book, the IPPFA Retirement Guide, which is covers Article 4 fire pensions, Article 3 police, retirement healthcare savings, deferred compensation, and Social Security. Bulk purchase through, it's available on Amazon. Bulk purchase through our operation is $7.50. Means you can buy 50 books for $325, 100 books for $750. Very good use of foreign fire insurance tax money, and we have done direct mailings to foreign fire insurance boards and gotten some activity out of there. Some departments, big ones, Peoria, Springfield, Skokie, bought a book for every member, so every active member. So it's a good use of the money. Anyway, my commercial's over. Now we move down to municipalities. They get all of the above, plus a lot of different revenue sources. Sales tax, automatic. You don't even have to levy a sales tax. 1 percentage point of sales in your jurisdiction comes back to the municipalities through the state comptroller's office. There's an income tax in Illinois. We know from our first module that a municipality or a fire district can't have one, but municipalities get a share of the state income tax distributed through the local government distributive fund back to our treasuries based on population. So rich town and poor town that are both same population, they get the same amount of money. It doesn't matter who generated the income where. It's distributed based on population. Utility taxes are popular: gas, electric, phone, limited, I believe, to 5% under state law. Gas tax, the share of the state motor fuel tax, like the income tax, comes back to the municipality based on population. So even if you have no gas stations in town, or if you're a small town with 5 gas stations on an interchange at the interstate, we all get the same gas tax per population. There's 911 fees on the phone bill that can be charged. Charges for services are big, mostly water and sewer. Garbage collection, billing for that, often put on the water bill, charge for service. Vehicle licenses, some places have them, some don't. Just another tax, village sticker, city sticker on the car. The concept of a sin tax, alcohol, tobacco, now gambling, cannabis. I've heard the phrase used, the addiction economy. I'm not so sure it's a good idea for us to depend on revenue from the guy who's walking out of the dispensary and on his phone, he's betting whether St. John's will score a three-pointer between the second and third meeting, of the second half in their game against DePaul. But I guess if that's happening, government's going to try and grab a little piece of it. So there's a lot of revenues that a municipality has access to, not so much fire protection districts. That being said, when we go to the advanced fire officer course, the below the line, if you will, the municipalities will use the phrase elastic or elasticity, but more importantly, to just pin it down, those are economically sensitive revenues. Recession comes along, income tax goes down, sales tax goes down. One of the other revenues that a lot of municipalities has is a real estate transfer tax. It's money that's paid to the municipality upon the transfer of real estate. 2008, that money basically disappeared, gone. No property transactions were occurring. A little exaggeration. Very few were occurring, and very little of that revenue. Meanwhile, above the line, the fire protection district, heavily related on property tax, people pay their property taxes. I know in distressed towns, Harvey, Camden, New Jersey, Detroit, or whatever, there's a lot of property tax delinquencies. But in the municipalities and fire districts that are being served on this class roster here, there are not. And there have been a couple of times in my career, it's gone on quite a while. If I was talking to a firefighter, paramedic, I would say there are times where you were better off being employed by a fire protection district because the revenue was that much more secure. Regardless, that's a quick picture of how government's paid for. And come back to advanced fire officer sometime, we go into the theory behind it and we dig into the details a little bit more. Let's switch now to public employee retirement. We have permission from NIPSTA to touch on this as part of our budget presentation. It's of interest to people. It's expensive, not overly expensive, but it's expensive. It's a big part of the budget in a lot of communities. So we want to talk about public employee retirement. There's three pillars or three legs of the retirement income: pension, Social Security, personal savings. And for personal savings, you'll see in a few minutes. When we teach it at IPPFA, we're concentrating on public employee deferred compensation. Personal saving can be anything. You bought a rental house, you bought a bank CD, you got an Edward Jones guy or Schwab guy that put you in an index fund. That's all personal savings. But we concentrate on the things that the government provides to the public employee. And right now you're working and you get paid. Okay, that's good. And someday you won't be working. And that money is going to be replaced. It's going to be replaced really by one of these three things: pension, Social Security, personal savings. If you've got sometimes you could add a third career on there, or whatever number of career it is, part-time work, etc. But these are the main three pieces. I'm a good example of this. I'm retired, 73. So I went on pension, IMRF pension when I was 60. And I deferred from when I was with the village. My union administrator pension, when I retired full-time, kicked in at 62. And then Social Security, you got to take it at 70. I aged out at 70. So I'm pretty much in that zone. Personal savings, fortunately, I haven't needed any of it. I'm at a point now where age 73, you have to start taking it if you're in a tax-exempt IRA or deferred compensation plan. So that's the nature of the beast. But I'm a good example. I was working, now I'm not. Pension, Social Security, and eventually personal savings will fill out my household income. Okay, public employee pensions, by and large, are defined benefit. DB is the phrase used in the pension world. The benefit's defined. You get half pay at 20 years. You get 65% of pay if you're disabled, etc. Those are all defined benefits. This comes, however, with a high contribution amount paid by the employees themselves. And I have high and caps there. From time to time, you'll read a person who's anti-public employee or anti-pension or whatever saying, oh, they hardly pay any of their own pension. They get back their money in the first year and a half. They only pay 5%. None of that's true. Especially in the public safety group, you're paying fire 9.5, police 9.9 of your salary. That gets invested by the pension plan from the day you start your job till the day you or your spouse dies. And a good number to use is that you're paying 30% of your own pension. Chicago Fire, Tony Martin, a friend there, he's done his own calculations. He thinks it's higher, closer to 40. I guess that depends on what disability rates are or something along those lines. But it's solidly in there that you're paying a third of your own pension. If someone comes along and says you hardly pay any of your own pension, give them my email and tell them to talk to me. The funding level, the money that's put in by the employees, put in by the municipalities and invested, it varies. How much of the money that you have today that you need to pay for promised pension varies. Some pension plans are well funded, 100%, 90%. North of 80 is generally a comfort area. Okay, you will know how well funded your pensions are. We do have some problems in the state. Chicago's not well funded. The economic engine to fund it is there, but it just hasn't been well funded. There's some municipalities across the state that don't have the economic engine that Chicago's got that are not well funded. I'm a little concerned about that. I'll get to that in a second. Why are some plans underfunded? Okay, a couple of reasons. One is deviation from assumptions. We make assumptions, hopefully valid ones, of life expectancy, earnings rate on our investments, the disability rate, the salary progression rate. And that gets all mixed together. And sometimes those can be off. And if they're off, that creates an unfunded liability. You thought you were funding properly. You didn't put enough money in because you missed some of your assumptions. That needs to be made up. Law changes that increase benefits. That's a problem in a defined benefit plan in the public sector, that the legislature can meet and change benefits. They change them retroactively, meaning service that you've had in the past is going to be considered for the new higher benefit. And as a city manager or mayor can go to bed 100% funded, and the legislator meets and they wake up 94% funded because the law changed. Let me give you a recent example of that. We'll talk about the tiers in a minute, but the tier 2 benefit was nicely improved in 2019 through the work of police and fire unions in order to get their acquiescence to the law that consolidated investments for pension purposes. And, Skokie, for example, or other municipalities have been properly funding tier 2 benefits, and they woke up one morning and tier 2 benefits had changed retroactively. And now you've got a higher accrued liability without the funds to meet that. Your funding level went down. So that can happen. The third reason, I've got in italics, the failure of the government to properly fund their share. This is the biggest one. Underfunding overtly or covertly, taking pension holidays, which is what happened at the state level. That doesn't serve anybody well. You've got to be putting in the normal cost that your employees are earning every year in order to keep a pension plan fully funded. So what's your town's or fire district's funded level? We get a break, talk about it amongst yourselves. Unfortunately, since I'm not there, they're probably pretty good. But 80% is a comfort level, 100%, 90% is the law requirement by 2045, and 100% is always a good thing to have. Is your pension at risk? No. Okay, if you're low funded, this is a constitutionally protected benefit. It could get ugly in some towns. If pensions have to be funded, public service can be cut back. And when you're in the 25% zone, that's not a good place to be. And I'm a little worried about what can happen, total government, revenues, expenses, pensions, when those things start to collapse. But and I think we're seeing some of that in Harvey right now. It's not driven by pension problems necessarily, but they've had some pretty substantial layoffs and probably some pretty substantial degradation of services. Fire rescue, you got to have bodies. You got to have bodies on rigs that are ready to go. If they're not there, your service level is going to degrade, period. So it could get ugly. Maybe it's getting ugly, but enough on that. Okay, Illinois firefighter pensions. similar to a lot of public safety systems around the country. They provide retirement, survivor, disability benefits. They're now under 2 tiers. You're in tier 2 with a different level of benefits if you were hired after January 1st, 2011. The retirement benefits are the same, 2.5% of pay for every year of service, age 50 or age 55 eligibility for that pension, depending on your tier. Survivor benefits are 100% or 66.7% to the surviving spouse or children, depending on which tier you're in. Chicago Fire is 50%. It's always been 50%. Right? Disability benefits, there are duty and non-duty related benefits. The duty related benefits pay a higher percentage of salary replacement than the non-duty ones do. For our Chicago member over at Chicago, they call the Chicago Police and Fire, they call the non-duty ordinary disability. It means non-duty. The management of these funds, there's a local board consisting of elected and appointed members. For the non-Chicago groups, it's 2 uniformed individuals, a retiree, and then 2 citizens appointed by the mayor of the district. I'm one of the citizens at Skokie PD, been that way since I was a finance director there in the 80s, so I get some longevity type award, I guess. Now, except for Chicago, investment management is now under a separate statewide board. That's the consolidation bill from 2019. Consolidation happened moderately slowly, but by 2023, 2024, they were beginning to be fully consolidated. Illinois Fire Investment Board did a great job of moving along a quick consolidation, and they've done a good job. Those boards are also like your local boards. There's elected members and appointed members, and they're doing a good job. Some people didn't want consolidation. We got it, and I think both systems, police and fire, are operating quite well. A quick word about Tier 1 and Tier 2. The tiers were created January 1, 2011. To be Tier 1, you have to have been in Article 4 Downstate Fire Service or Article 6 Chicago Fire before January 1, 11 in order to be in Tier 1 in each respective article. You have to have had service under the article prior to 1/1/11. Okay, so what does that mean? The middle point: military buyback. Okay, there are occasional allowances for transfer of service into a fire pension fund, like from IMRF or from downstate police. All right, people buy service back. Maybe in the system it changes their start date. Okay, but it doesn't change their start date for tier purposes. All right. Those can't be used. You have to have been, you could have been hired at a downstate system for a day and for some reason had to quit. You got paid for a day. You took pension contributions out. You took a refund. You've got Article 4 service. You've got Article 6 Chicago service. Right. And you're good for Tier 1 if you come back into the service. If you don't have that, you're not. All right. One of our good service providers, Lauterbach and Amon, who helps us manage a lot of the downstate group, including Skokie Police, where I'm a trustee. They use the phrase, once Tier 1, always Tier 1, once Tier 2, always Tier 2. Okay. So again, I would mention changes that were made in the downstate fire system in 2019 consolidation bill, and subsequently Chicago Fire improved their Tier 2 benefits substantially. They're not the same as Tier 1 still, but they got quite a nice boost. Pending legislation, there is always legislation being considered that would modify, basically improve tiering of benefits. Just now, observing House Bill 4673. It's a big bill. It's carried over from the last legislative session, got a lot in it, including tiering, including entrance into the reciprocal funds for Article 3 and 4. I'm not going to too deeply into that, but every other system other than the standalone fire and police systems has reciprocity between them. I was in IMRF for 4. If I'd gone to the state or Cook County or became a teacher, all of that would fit together quite well. The Article 3 and 4, police and fire downstate, Article 5 and 6, Chicago, do not. All right. That would put them in this. Okay. There's a cost to doing that. I think it's a great idea. Police and fire shouldn't be excluded. Pension should be reciprocal. People should be able to move around the state. Just to give an example, only looking at the class roster here, I do believe, you can correct me when you talk amongst yourselves, that Rosemont and Glencoe, the public safety departments, are in the police Article 3. All right. That's good. Those are good benefits. But if you're in a Round Lake Fire, Article 4 fire system, and you want to transfer to Skokie, you can make the situations reciprocal. If Glencoe or Rosemont, if they are in police, if they want to come to Skokie or Naperville Fire, they're in the police fund. It's not reciprocal. Every now and then a window opens up. These windows are terrible, where the legislature will give you 6 months to scramble around and move service. They're a bad idea. Blanket reciprocity is the way to go. So we'll see where this legislation takes us. There's some tier improvements in it. There's the uniform reciprocity. There's a lot in there that's good. Raises costs. You can't give something to someone without it costing money. We're in a tough spot in terms of raising pension costs in the state. So we'll see where it goes. I'm personally in favor of it, but we'll see. Okay, continuing retirement, Social Security. Most fire staff in Illinois do not participate in Social Security. All right. If you are in Social Security, maybe Rosemont is, I'm not sure. Okay, good for you. If you've got an Article 4 fire, Article 3 fire police pension, and full Social Security from when you're working there, entitled to those benefits at 67, you're going to have a pretty good retirement. If you blow those two benefits, then that's on you. There's nothing I can say or the guy at Edward Jones or Schwab can say to get you out of that problem. Okay, but most fire staff in Illinois do not participate, but you can still earn a benefit from other work. If you get the 40 credits, or sometimes called 40 quarters in Social Security, or now if you're married to someone who has Social Security benefits, you can get a benefit off of their record or off your own record from your own time away from the fire service. That's a good thing. Not going to be a lot of money. If you didn't have a lot of big Social Security footprint, you don't put a lot of time and money into a system, you're not going to get a lot of money and time out, but you will get some benefit. The good news on top of that is there's no longer any special formulas or provisions for persons with pensions from outside of Social Security. You used to hear about those, the windfall elimination provision, the government pension offset. All of those went bye-bye with the Social Security Fairness Act that was adopted in January of 2025. All right. And you can get more information from that from our book, IPPFA Retirement Guide, or the counterpart, the Chicago Police and Fire Retirement Guide, or go to IPPFA TV on YouTube, and we have a Social Security module. It's me talking about Social Security and the changes in the law. It's about 30 minutes. It's a little bit long for a piece like that, but it's got everything you need and it's free. So if you want to check it out further, if someone on the job wants to check it out further, that's where to go. The third piece, personal savings. Okay, for many public employees, it's via Internal Revenue Code Section 457, deferred compensation, sometimes called deferred comp. Okay, personal opinion, best way to save ever created. Best way to save ever created. Okay, put $20 in. You shouldn't put that low in, but if you put $20 in, you can pick from a menu of stock, bond funds, guaranteed investments. Where else in the world? Try walking into a bank or a finance guy at Morgan Stanley with $20 and ask him if he was interested in your account. But public employee deferred compensation, everybody's welcome. All right. Public safety savings rates are very favorable. This is from NPPFA Benefits, which is our offshoot deferred comp and retirement healthcare savings entity. They say, the fire and police are the best savers. Part of that, I think, this is personal. And we've proven that, by the way, from surveys. But you take care of each other. You take care of each other on a fire ground, training, or whatever. Everyone's looking out for each other. When the new guy comes on the job, new lady comes on the job, someone sits down with her and says, "Hey, kids, sign up for this. Sign up for as much as you can. Make it hurt." Okay, it'll pay off for you in the long run. Along the same lines, public employee investments are appropriately aggressive. We know from the NPPFA asset selection, people tend to pick the stock market early and mid and sometimes even later in their careers. I say appropriately aggressive. There's a theory in personal savings that you can look at your pension, your fire pension, as if it was a safe bond paying you interest. And if you capitalize that for your life, you could be worth millions of dollars. So you've got a safe investment right there. Because you got a safe investment there, you can afford to take some risk on the personal savings side, and generally that risk will be rewarded. I'd like you to remember the rule of 72. If you've never heard of it, I'll do a quick explanation. You divide an interest rate, an expected interest rate, into the number 72, or an earnings rate into 72. And the product of that division is the amount of time it will take invested money to double in value. So if you could earn, I'll make it easy on myself, if you could earn 7.2% on your investments into the future, your money that you put in today will double every 10 years. Earn 9%, it'll double every 8 years. All right. And what I like to joke about, it's the last 1 or 2 doublings that really count. Because if you start at your 20s, you're going to be drawing some of this money out in your 80s. All right. That's a lot of time for money to double in value. And I'll just use a quick example. When I was at the Village of Skokie, public employee deferred comp came in around the Revenue Act of 78. We got underway about 1980. I was there for almost 10 years of that. And my statement after that was frozen in time. How much did Ryan put in? $33,000. Okay. Next year, $33,000. The line was frozen. All I had was my earnings on top of that. At this point, I've merged a little money in and out of it, but it's like, $600,000 or something. It's just crazy. Now, some crazy things happen in the investment world during that time. I mean, the economic expansion, return on the stock market. And I'm no genius investor, believe me. But it's just a great place to hang out. Your pension is a safe piece of your retirement income. Now we've got a little better Social Security added onto that. Why not take some risk with your personal savings, and away you go. So get in the plan as soon as you can, for as much as you can, and continue to encourage the young individuals to come on the job. 3 months ago, they were living in mommy's basement, working at Home Depot. They got more money than they've ever seen now, even as a probationary firefighter. Get as much as we can into deferred comp. And then finally on that slide, the advent of easy investing, we'll call it, the target date fund. My daughter's a good example. Finance major in college. Got her first job, had a 401k plan, which is part pension, part personal savings. In the private sector, there's a little bit of a blend of those two. She brings home all the material. They had T. Rowe Price, target date funds. I said, pick the 2050, 2060 fund from when you'll be retiring. She thought that was crazy back in 06 that could be, she'd have to be working that long. I said, well, welcome to the real world. And they blend it, aggressive in the beginning. They rebalance it, more conservative when you come up to retirement. If you don't want to spend time learning about investments, a target date fund with low fees is a great way to save. Okay, for resources on this, we have our IPPFA retirement guide. I mentioned that before. Covers pension, Social Security, deferred comp, retirement healthcare, available on Amazon.com or via bulk sales through us. We have a companion book, Chicago Police and Fire Retirement Guide. Police section, I was helped out by a coworker, Mike Lappy, decorated career Chicago PD, and Tony Martin, Chicago Fire, your local 2, formerly a member of the board there at the CFD Pension, gave us a good summary of benefits for Chicago Fire. It's a good book. And then IPPFA TV, we've got YouTube modules, cover much of the material in the books, and it's available for free. Okay, we're on the final stretch. Let's talk a little bit about government purchasing and contracting. And this leads into the advanced module for the advanced fire officer course, where they actually do a case study type exercise on replacing the department's SCBA masks, and related equipment. Purchasing rules are going to be established by state law or local ordinance. What are our concerns when government buys something? Cost efficiency, always value for the tax dollar. We want to be fair. We want to give, it's a public good. We want to give any qualified vendor a chance to participate in a public contract. And we need to have some concerns for fraud, anti-corruption. somebody's brother-in-law owns some kind of company or whatever, and they want to think they're going to get an in. They shouldn't have an in, okay, especially if there's kickbacks involved. So, what's our answer to that? Free, open, competitive bidding. It's a good system. It's not perfect. I'm sure there have been times in your career now or to come where you were not particularly pleased with what the competitive bidding system produced in terms of product or service that the fire department used. That's the way we operate. I can't find it. You would think in an internet search world, I would be able to find it. Decades ago, maybe the 80s, I saw a cartoon in a government magazine, a political type cartoon. It had two Gemini astronauts on the top of a rocket being ready to be fired off into space, and one guy says to the other, "You know, this thing was built by the low bidder, don't you?" So they weren't particularly happy about that. Sometimes we're not particularly happy in the public space, but it's a system we've got. What are the components? An objective specification. We're not going to write it to a specific product. Public submittal and reading aloud, that's an important part of it. So bids are due in City Hall, room 300, March 5th at 10 o'clock. Bidders can come and see the opening if they want. It's an open event. The purchasing agent, the finance director, the city manager pops open the bids, reads the bid dollar amount, the vendor and the dollar amount aloud. Okay. It then goes back to analysis by the department, finance department, fire department together, building and zoning, whoever's involved in analyzing the bids. And then we make a public contract award. We go into the public meeting, city council, a village board, fire district board, and we say bids were solicited and received. This is what we got. And this is the low responsive and responsible bidder. Responsive to the specification and responsible, he or the company have a reputation as being able to provide this. It doesn't have to be the low bid if the low bid is not responsive to the specification or the vendor has a bad reputation. The nature of it being what it is, if you got 5 bids, you got to award to the low, responsive, and responsible. You start with the low bid. Is he compliant with the spec? No. Okay. We go to the second one. Is he compliant with the spec? Yes. Is his reputation good? Yes. That's your award. There's no reason to look at 3, 4, and 5 because you're going to award to the low, responsive, and responsible bidder. An alternative is a request for a proposal. You can do this for highly complex projects and equipment. This is something that is brought up in the textbook that NIPSTA uses for fire officers. I'm familiar with a request for a proposal for professional services, architect, engineer, etc. We'll get to that on the next slide. But they said for highly complex projects and equipment, you don't necessarily write a spec. You write a request for proposal and say, this is what we need. What do you propose? The example I would use would be a fire department radio system. I'll use Skokie as an example. If you're in the basement of the Holiday Inn at the south end of town and something's going on at the north end of town, you want to hear it. All right. You don't really care how that got there. Repeater stations, satellite, I don't know, telephone support. Say what the problem is and let somebody, a proposer, give you a solution. Good idea. Okay. So local purchasing, there are some exceptions to the competitive bidding. Smaller purchases, it's not worth the time and effort. So most of your communities will have a bid threshold, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Doesn't mean it's a free-for-all below that. But below that, you might be responsible for getting a couple of quotes, not a big fancy specification. You need some rooms painted at a public building. You'd write up a quick description, have the painters come by, give you their quotes, and away you go. Emergencies. If there's an emergency and you need to buy something fast, virtually all purchasing codes allow this, and then you report back to city council or fire district board at the next convenient meeting. Hey, this is what we had to do. So if you've only got 2 ambulances and one of them got smashed up in an accident, you got to, and you can get that replaced quick. A used thing or something, you do it. All right. In my career, the blizzard of 1979, the area just got crazy, boxed in by snow, we were contracting with snow removal people, buying equipment left and right. Had to be done. Sole source providers. If there's only one vendor who can provide what you want, it is much more honorable and practical to say that and prove it up rather than write a spec for that to only one bidder and then son of a gun on March 5th in room 300 at 10 o'clock, there's only one brown envelope. We only got one bid. Well, why'd you get only one bid? Because you're only one person you want. You're much better off specking out, not writing a specification, but detailing out what you want, why you want it. Replacement masks are a good concept. You don't want to have, more than one type there. Regulators, use that, different individuals need to use in an emergency. Water meters, for a water meter reading system, you've got the whole thing set up to be read by passing truck or internet or phone or whatever. And, it's got to feed right into the billing system. You got to have replacement meters on the shelf. You can only use one. So that's the way it goes. And you can negotiate hard. You can tell the vendor, hey, I don't want to, pick up the newspaper or do an internet search and find that you're selling this on competitive bid to a town in South Carolina for $200 a meter, and I'm paying $250. So that's sometimes called the most favored nations clause. You can negotiate hard on those. And then professional services, architect, lawyer, engineer, building a firehouse, new station, for example. You can take proposals for professional services using an RFP, request for proposal, and you're gonna balance cost and the qualifications of the individual. You don't want someone who's never built a firehouse before, even if he's the low proposer. Nice thing on the public side is we cooperate with each other. Google and Microsoft don't jointly purchase things together, but municipalities and fire districts do. So you can have, and the advantages are easy. Just so you can have, more product means better prices. Plus, since competitive bidding is complicated, if you can have a host government take care of it for you, then you don't have to involve yourself in that administrative effort. So you can have a simple 2 or 3 government cooperation. Regional organizations, Northwest Municipal Conference, DuPage mayors and managers, they will jointly buy certain products and services. State of Illinois allows the municipalities and fire districts and other districts to participate in quite a few of their contracts. It's not a surprise that your local police cars just look just like the state police cars because they're probably purchased under the same contract. The Texas Council of Governments does the same thing for Texas. Minnesota does the same thing for Minnesota, and they've opened up to the country. So you can go to their websites and see what contracts they have and see if there's a benefit to participating that way. So the joint purchasing, cooperative purchasing environment is rich for use and rich for efficiencies and good costs. Quick closeout on disposal. You got the same concerns on disposal of equipment, fairness, cost, anti-graft that you do when you're buying it. The problem is it's not worth anything. It's kind of hard and not worth the effort, but you can't just be giving used equipment to your buddy, through some sweetheart deal. You got to do it right. So sometimes we trade in equipment. We put out a bid for a new piece of equipment, and we say we're trading in this other one. Sometimes you just get a courtesy allowance from the bidder. Nobody really wants that old dump truck or that falling apart ambulance, but they'll give you a courtesy bid for it. There's public auctions. You can have it big auctions in Chicago for vehicles. You send down your vehicles, and there was a parking lot. I'm probably not there anymore, but a big auction lot north of the Chicago Fire Academy when I used to teach there for SIU. And it was empty on a Friday when I taught there and jammed on a Saturday because they bring in all these vehicles and people would come to bid on them. And you could give them your municipal vehicles or your private vehicle, and they're going to take 6 or 7% of the purchase price. And they're good at getting good prices, and it's worth the fee to do that. Cooperative agencies also have auctions. There is a website, I don't know where the name came from, withgarage.com. which supports public sale nationwide of municipal equipment, particularly fire equipment. I've run into this gentleman at a chief's conference. All right. You can simply dispose of things that are not worth anything. You have to document that. And then the last thing I have in the bottom corner, the charity giveaway. Every now and then you'll read about a municipality in Metro Ring of Chicago giving obsolete, we'll call it, fire apparatus for our uses to a poor department down south, or really south in Mexico or Bolivia or something like that. I guess you could get a couple of grand for it, but we're citizens of the world. We're citizens of the country. If I'm a taxpayer in a local town and they wanted to give away something to nowhere, Arkansas or South America, that's fine with me. So that's part 2 of our module. Thanks to all of you for sitting in on it. I wish I could have been there, but that's the way it goes. Thank you also for your career commitment to public service. I always get a little boost out of being a little part of it by being part of this education. So I thank you for that. Once again, questions, dan.ryan@ippfa.org, and be happy to help you on anything we discussed or anything else. Thank you very much.